You know, I understand looking at some of the criticism of the first movie and trying to do things differently in the sequel, but I'm pretty sure nobody handed in the note of, yeah, Statham versus giant sharks. Can we cut back on that shit, maybe? What is up, everybody? Welcome to my review of Meg 2: The Trench, the sequel to kind of a surprise hit from a few years ago. I think that movie made like $500 million. Pretty generic B-movie shark adventure. Jason Statham punching a gigantic shark in the face. I mean, who doesn't love that, right? I wasn't a huge fan of the first film, I gotta be honest. To me, it felt like the concept was there, everything, all the ingredients were there for a really fun, schlocky B-movie, but tapering it down to a very tame PG-13 with no gore, no shark carnage whatsoever, focusing way too much on human characters and story that none of us are there to see when we walk into a Meg movie, just kind of held that from being a movie that could have been really entertaining and memorable for me personally. But I saw the trailer for Meg 2, and it seemed from the trailer that they were really going to lean into everything that they kind of skipped past in the first film. It was going to be a lot dumber, a lot bigger, a lot schlockier, and even though I knew it was never going to be anything grand, I was actually kind of excited to maybe just have a really big, dumb schlock fest to cap off the summer of 2023. So I saw this thing last night, and how do you make a movie about Jason Statham versus giant sharks so goddamn boring? Twice.
How do you fuck that up? How do you fuck that up?
Starting off with the positives, the third act of this movie delivers quite a bit of what I'd imagine most people walking into this film want to see. Most of the marketing is focused on all of the crazy antics that is in the last 20-25 minutes of this movie, with gigantic sea monsters and multiple Megs and Jason Statham driving a wave runner with gigantic exploding spikes, like all of that ridiculousness that you should have had throughout most of this runtime. They pull off fairly well in the third act. Like, if you have the patience to get through the first 90 minutes to experience all the stuff that you probably bought your ticket for, a lot of you might have some of your wishes granted by the last few reels of the movie. I also can't help but be entertained by Jason Statham. Like, there's times where he really tries and he has some really interesting characters and it does some really good movies, and then there's other times where he's just kind of there to be the Jason Statham persona. This feels like the latter, which is not a very big compliment for a positive, but I don't know. He's one of those actors where I know what I'm getting, and he usually, even on his off days, can deliver enough to keep me watching. That's about it. That's about all I can do, and I'm reaching to give some positive to this movie. This is not like a bad experience that you're just gonna be revolted at. This is not a movie that's gonna anger you. This is not something where you're gonna walk out just disgusted with what you just spent your money and time with, but the amount of wasted potential for what, in my mind, should be a fairly simple, straightforward concept to deliver entertainment with is just kind of shocking at this point. To be 2 movies in and still, in my opinion, not getting it. So the main negative with me is this movie is just boring as all hell for the concept that should never be boring. I mean, you have the Megalodon, these prehistoric creatures. We got introduced to it in the first film. There was one shark. Now there's multiple sharks. There's a section in the deep sea called the Trench where many other prehistoric, colossal sea monsters live. And having them escape and come and just have carnage wrecked on human beings, and the only person that could save humanity is Jason Statham, that's dumb as fuck, but that is such a easy concept to deliver dumb as fuck entertainment. And for some reason, they spend the first 3/4 of this movie on human characters that we don't know, don't care about, don't even remember from the first film, corporate espionage, talking about illegal mining down in the deep sea, and it's like, guys, what the fuck are we here for? Like, this is the dumbest execution of a plot that I have seen since a Jurassic Park film that decided to focus on fucking locusts. I'm a story guy. I'm a characters guy. I walk into every movie hoping that that is going to be a highlight because that is what typically draws me in and keeps me entertained and makes me remember a movie. But something like this, I walk in knowing that is going to be a weakness. So why the hell would you focus on all of that when you have all of the strengths of what makes people buy their tickets to a movie like this just relegated to the last quarter of the film. It does the movie no favors, especially in the first 3/4, that the characters are just paper thin and the dialogue is so bad. Like, not entertaining level bad. That's the other part of it. Like, you can have guilty pleasure angles here. You can have a so bad that it's good angle in a movie like this very easily, but it's just so bad that it's boring. And the dialogue that these characters give off is just like, can we please see a fucking shark do something? Please. Like, can you get waterboarded from a movie's dialogue? Is that possible? Even the attempts that they give to try to have those like Jason Statham action movie cliche one-liners here is just like, oh my God, guys. Like, he throws a dude into a shark, like an enemy that just gets taken out by a shark, and he goes, "Take that, chum." Get it? Like, instead of chump, it's chum. Oh man, it's good. It's good. Good.
Wow, that's actually hilarious.
And even just the basic story that the movie takes us through, it's blatantly ripping off numerous films and doing nothing interesting with their own spin of those elements. You got Jason Statham that apparently is like a Greenpeace James Bond at this point. The movie opens up with like this espionage scene that's like way out of place. Then he goes back to his research station, and we have the little submersibles that is eerily similar to a situation that was all in the news like a couple of months ago, where they're going down into the deep trenches, and you got a guy that wants to swim with the sharks and try to tame the Megs. Very similar to the Thomas Jane character in Deep Blue Sea. You know, I can swim with sharks and I can maneuver them and I'll be okay, don't fret, guys. Then the submersibles fail and they're stuck in the deep sea, and you get what is a blatant ripoff of the movie Underwater, that Kristen Stewart film from like 2 or 3, 4 years ago, where they got to put on these little robot mech suits and walk across the ocean floor, and there's some monsters and fauna just kind of going around them. You can't really tell what any of it is because it's so fucking dark, and the way that they edit it is incoherent, but yeah, I mean, it's there. We've seen it before. It's very recognizable. Then you get into this underwater facility where they're like, what is all of this? Why is all my technology here? And it's like the most weak version of Weyland-Yutani that you could have possibly given us. And that's where you spend most of your film, is corporate espionage and a few backstabbers and traitors of characters that we don't even remember their first name, until eventually we get to a beach that is called Fun Island, I'm pretty sure. No, that's actually what it's called, Fun Island. And then we get what the trailer promised.
What are you doing?
Nothing. Me? Just hanging around.
Don't fear, though, because the Megs are all throughout the movie. I mean, you know, we get the one sequence with the giant Meg and the guy that's trying to tame the sharks, and then even when they're going down into the trenches, the Megs keep going by the submersibles, and it's just like an eye that just goes past 4 or 5 different times. You get a line from Jason Statham. He's like, "That's the biggest Meg anybody's ever seen." Isn't any Meg the biggest Meg that anybody's ever seen? How many of these fucking things are out in the wild? And just like the first film, when we finally do get to the zany Carnage section of the film, the part that we all signed up for, why is this movie so tame PG-13? Like, not just PG-13, tame PG-13. The only blood that you see in this entire film is from other prehistoric creatures. You know, like the little 4-legged ones that are walking around that are straight out of the Lost World Jurassic Park. Hey, there's another ripoff. That's it. Like the shark carnage, the horror side of things that most of us are here to see, none. There's not a single human dismemberment. There's not a single limb that gets bitten off. None of that. Every human that befalls the Meg is swallowed whole. That's exciting. I gotta think that these are like studio producer decisions where they're like, we can get way more money in the box office if more teenagers can go and watch this film. But what you don't understand is if you actually deliver to the target audience of a film like this, somebody that 99% of the people walking in love horror films and violent action films, and you're trying to mash them together, even shark films, that subgenre is pretty much predominantly rated R. If you soften that, if you shave off all the edges, if you make it as bland and vanilla as possible, your target audience is not gonna give a fuck. Now, I already hear some of you in the comment sections and on Twitter saying, hey, why are you taking this movie so seriously? Like, this is supposed to be bad. Like, you actually walked in expecting quality? No, not at all. But there's a difference between a really intentionally silly film that is executed well and a movie that's just plain bad and is kind of baffling at the numerous mistakes that it has. Like, you have to kind of adjust your scale and adjust your criteria to watch certain films. Nobody should walk into Meg 2: The Trench and grade it on the same scale that they did Oppenheimer. Just like you don't walk into a McDonald's and start complaining about the atmosphere and how pretty the plating is when you get your meal. You walk in because you want a low quality burger fast and hopefully it tastes good and gets the job done. Well, this didn't taste good. In fact, I opened up the wrapper and it was just a stale bun. No burger, no toppings, the things that I came for. So all in all, guys, if you loved the first Meg, you might still like this one, but if you didn't enjoy the first one, I think you don't have a snowball's chance in hell at enjoying this one. I do think this is inferior to the first, and unfortunately, this is probably not only the worst film I've seen this summer, but it's definitely the worst big budget movie that I've seen so far in 2023. It's a shame. Could have been an awesome guilty pleasure, but it was just guilt. Well, that's it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed that, please click over here for all of my 2023 new release reviews, and I'm also going to put a ranking up here of all the movies of July that I just released a few days ago. Please like, share, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss anything in the future, and as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean you have to be.